So, apparently, assassins are no joke in the Chainsaw Man universe, because already two different groups of the assassins that we saw in the last couple of chapters have made it to Japan and started making their move on Denji. That's right, because in the next two chapters we actually get to see just the tiniest smidge of action amongst this pile of buildup that we've been receiving since the Reze arc ended. Because in this chapter we have guns, guts, and ducks for some reason. And I don't know about you, but I'm hyped to jump directly into these chapters, because today we're reviewing Chainsaw Man chapter 55 and 56. So we start out chapter 55 of Chainsaw Man titled Let's Go with Power and Denji hanging out at a lake having a totally normal human conversation about eating the birds there, which I'm not one for duck, but at least Power's talking about eating something kind of normal for once. But while they're talking about eating ducks, they're actually eating onigiri, which then Denji drops his on the ground, and he picks it up. 5-second rule, am I right? But as he goes to eat it, he gets stopped by a man with glasses and his hair pulled back, telling him about the millions of bacteria that are all over the ground and visible to the human eye that could cause any number of disease and cause any kind of food poisoning. But, my boy Denji used to eat toilet paper, so this isn't really gonna stop him. And Power makes remarks about how he's just trying to steal Denji's food. And let me just say that Power looks like she's actually just having the time of her life, just chilling with Denji by the lake. She's eating this shit up, thinking that it's so funny that people are trying to berate Denji for eating food off the ground. She's just chilling. But surrounding the man with pulled up hair and glasses, we have 4 other people. We have Aki, the Angel Devil, a man with black, medium-ish hair similar to mine that kind of be giving me the creeps, I'm not gonna lie, his smile is eerie, and another kind of normal-looking guy that just has super baggy eyes. Man's looks tired, for real. And everyone there is trying to keep Denji from eating this ground food that he dropped, which Denji plays along with for a second and then crams it into his mouth so nobody can stop him. I don't know why they thought that they were going to get through to him. It's then that we actually get introduced to these 3 individuals that we're not really too familiar with, them being from the Public Safety Devil Extermination 2nd Division. The man with the blonde pulled back hair and glasses that was just berating Denji on the millions of bacteria he just ate is named Kusakabe. His friend with the short hair and the baggy eyes that looks like he did not want to wake up today under any circumstances is named Tomoki, and the guy that just frankly gives me the creeps is named Yoshida. Now we get these introductions in what I assume is a flashback because they're no longer at the lake, and Makima is saying that they're basically the best bodyguards that anybody could hope for, but that they're all going to be sticking pretty close to Denji for the foreseeable future. But Makima also tells Denji that there's other people working behind the scenes, and not to worry, because when Denji makes the correct assumption that this is kind of a big deal, he says, "You don't know the half of it. We even have Mr. Subaru, the man who trained Mr. Miyagi's 2nd Division, coming all the way from Kyoto, even though he's a very busy man." Is at this point Kusakabe lets Denji know that he will be choosing his patrol routes down to the alley and asks if that's understood, where Denji playfully says, "Yes, sir," and this kind of sets Kusakabe off, who demands respect and demands that he says, "Yes, sir," exactly like that, but Denji's not exactly budging. He says, "Whatever, sir," and they don't seem to be getting along very well, I'm gonna be completely honest. But when has Denji gotten along with anybody who's strung up that tight and isn't named Aki? And to be honest, he doesn't even really get along with Aki all that well. He just makes do, and they are friends, just aggravating each other all the time. It's at this point that the scene changes to 2 men and a woman having a cigarette break outside of a car. And the woman says, there's all this fuss about the Chainsaw Man, but nobody's really seen the kid's face, pointing out that he has been caught on TV, But nobody's actually seen Dingy's real face. The only face that they've seen is the face of the chainsaw man, with a big old chainsaw blade sticking out his forehead and sharp, mangled teeth. But nobody's actually seen Dingy. So this leads her to the line of logic: can't we just keep this kid nice and quiet, shut up at home? Just stick him into his house, lock the door, tell him not to come out, and, be done with this whole situation? And the man she's talking to, with kind of a southern dialect, says, "You got a point there," and looks over to the second man and says, "Subaru, you mind explaining to us why that is?" To which the man sitting on the car having his cigarette, who we now know as Subaru, says, "Because Devil's got a keener nose than most humans," meaning that anybody with a devil contract would be able to sniff out Dingy even though they haven't seen his face, which still confuses me a little bit, because how do they know how Chainsaw Man smells like if they've only seen him on TV? But we're just gonna assume that that's more of a metaphor and they have other ways of sniffing out Dingy. We cut to them going down the road, and Subaru asking Kursei, "Tendo, you've both met Makima, right? So what's she's like?" To which Tendo says, "Well, I actually been meaning to talk to you about that." And while Subaru's berating her for not spitting it out already, Tendo sees a little something in the road. There's a spike strip, and it definitely works here, because as soon as they hit the spike strip, Tendo veers off the road with no more power to her wheels and hits a tree. Now, with no real time to recuperate and still reeling from the crash, Kursei's looking up, calling her an idiot, asking how the hell did she manage to crash a car. But before anybody can respond, we see 3 guns pointed in all of the windows, and before anybody has a time to react, the 3 brother assassins we saw 2 chapters ago start lighting up this car. Now, after taking the saying, "fish in a barrel," way too literally, they pack these guys up in body bags and drag them out. At least they're giving them a proper burial, I guess, and not just leaving them in the car, but that's probably just them trying to not have any roads lead back to them. It's at this point where we get names for at least 2 of the brothers, with what looks like the elder brother looking over to what I assume is the youngest brother, and the elder brother, who is the one that has more of a beard than the other 2, even though it's more of just kind of a soul patch, and he calls him by Aldo and says, "This is the first time you've ever somebody, right?" And says, "How do you feel?" To which the younger brother says, "It's a piece of cake." And then again, a little more sick, says, "It's a piece of cake." And then he's throwing up in the bushes before he can get out the 3rd line, which I assume is, "It's a piece of cake." Is at this point he looks to the other brother, which I assumed was the eldest but could just be the middle child, and says, "Joey, how about you? This is your first time too. How do you feel?" Which Joey compares it to accidentally hitting a kitten while you're walking down the road, and says it's more like "Wow, you just messed up my shoes," and gets all angry. Now, the eldest brother, whose name that we still don't know, cracks a smug-ass grin and starts laughing his ass off for some reason. I don't exactly know what he's laughing about, but I didn't find it all too funny, to be honest. But as he's basically screaming out laughter, as if he's trying to act like he got the joke, when in reality he just didn't, his face transforms, and with no real explanation, now he looks like Kursei, asking, "How do I look?" To which the other brothers, who have seemingly done their research, say that Kursei has kind of a southern dialect, but you might want to tone it down a little bit because he tries to hide it in front of the Tokyoites. And in the final panel of this chapter, we see him looking oh so confident in his newfound accent, saying, "Well, y'all, let's go." And so with the ending of that chapter, we cut to the beginning of the next, chapter 56, titled "A First and a Curse," where we see Dingy, Power, and their bodyguards all eating at a burger joint, with Power trying to pawn her, I guess it's a tomato, off on Dingy, and Dingy laughing at her, and while everybody says that she needs to eat her vegetables, Dingy catches her off guard and sticks one in her mouth. And as she reels from how disgusting apparently vegetables are, she says that she's gonna throw up, and for the next page or so, we just get repeated jokes about how she's gonna throw up and Denji should eat it. To which Denji says, I'm not eating throw up anymore. My boy Denji done left that life behind. But if you'll pay him 10,000 yen, apparently he'll get the job done. And as Power is reeling and gagging, I suppose, we see a familiar face bump through between Kusakabe, Denji, and Power, saying, excuse me, to where Kusakabe, who apparently is all about manners, says, oh, I'm sorry. And as she walks by, Power gets up and sprints out the door, assumably to share her last meal with the sidewalk, which Kusakabe tries to call for her, saying, hey, and she just goes, die, and keeps running. And Kusakabe says, oh, well, the fiend just ran for it. And Denji says, no, she's not going anywhere, she'll just be outside. And so because of this, they all decide that they should just leave. And so we cut to the woman that bumped between Kusakabe and Denji, which, if any of you remember, was actually Tolka's master, the two assassins that we saw at the beginning of chapter 54. And as her and Tolka sit down at this hamburger joint, she sits there staring at a bloody nail, saying, I've never eaten at a hamburger place before. I've never eaten a hamburger. To which Tolka asks, what did you do when you walked by? And we get the reveal that apparently when she walked by Denji faster than anybody could see, she poked Denji 3 times, which is important because she's using a cursed devil in which if she stabs the target 4 times, the curse will activate, taking the life of whoever you poked 4 times, but coming at a great price. As she says, Tolka, I'm leaving the 4th and final time to you. It'll be part of your training, saying that if he passes this final test that she'll introduce him to all of the devils that she has contracts with. After this, she goes to take a bite out of her burger and ends up dropping it back onto her plate, just completely apart, saying it looks like part of the price for pricking that target 3 times was losing sensation in several of my fingers. And she jokingly says that she hopes that she still has her sense of taste as she goes to take an actual bite from the burger, to which she does. Now after that romantic scene between Tolka and his master, we cut to the violence fiend holding, well, they call it the grape devil, but it's more like a vine of eyeballs. And as he's wrapping up what I assume was an actual slaughterfest with this demon, he tells Kobeni that she can come out, and tells her that now that they're done with the grape devil, they can take a break. To which Kobeni gets excited about, and they do. And as they're walking down the road, with Kobeni having a soft serve ice cream cone and eating it, the violence fiend says, I can't really enjoy these sweet things, so I'll enjoy it vicariously through you. It's here that we learn that the violence fiend isn't so violent, actually, and actually enjoys peace more than violence, because, as abnormal as it is, he retained a lot of his human brain before he became a fiend, stating that he remembers where he went to school when he was a human, what his favorite place for cheap eats was, but he has no idea how he passed. The only thing he does remember is that Makima saved him, which I do not feel like she saved him. I feel like he's been a little bit lied to. And as Kobeni is trying to put more thought into it, he says, yeah, no, but I don't like violence that much. I do like peace a whole lot more, and sticks up a peace sign that gets promptly interrupted by the screeching of that crashed car we saw last chapter, and Kurase jumping out of it, screaming about needing to go to HQ and asking if they're public safety devil hunters, saying that Tendo and Subaru were taken out on their way here. Now, as Kobeni is confused and trying to make any kind of sense out of the situation, the violence fiend asks, who are you? To which this man that we know is not Kurase, but just an imposter, screams, my buddy and my master were just taken out. What are you doing? Go get me someone now. And he flashes his ID. And they all take off, going to try and find somebody for help, I suppose, leaving him there by himself, saying that they're all a bunch of idiots because they didn't listen to him until he had to flash his ID, which, I mean, I wouldn't listen to you either. We then cut to Denji and Power kind of snuggled up a little bit on the wall, talking about how they hate humans because they were made to patrol until 11. Denji says that he understands now that he's not patrolling for any real reason other than to be bait. To which Aki, walking around the corner, says, "You're absolutely right. You're bait." And he's like, "What the hell?" And Aki, having a pretty fair point, says, "You two are a lot harder to kill than the rest of us normal humans," but tells them not to hold it against him, because this way they get to go to Inoshima as fast as possible. To where Denji says, "Hey, if it's for Inoshima, I'll do whatever, man," but Power doesn't seem so happy about this, because she doesn't get anything for herself out of this. Apparently, she's not as hyped as the other two are about going to Inoshima. And she says, "You two get rewards, but I get nothing. That's not fair." So Aki says, "Okay, so what do you want, Power?" And she says, "I want to drain a human's blood completely until they pass." And Aki goes, "Okay, yeah, no, we can do that. Denji, let Power drain your blood when we're all done with this until you die." And Denji's like, "What the hell? Why am I getting set up for this? Why is this falling on me?" I'm just like, "You got it, man." And Power's like, "Hey, yo, Denji's blood? I got you. I got it." And jumps on Denji's shoulder, screaming her head off, apparently excited about drinking Denji's blood for some reason. And with that, we come to the end of chapter 57, with my final thoughts being, wow, we're actually getting some action again. I don't think we've gotten any action since the end of the Reze arc, when Denji and Reze were fighting and blowing up buildings and shit. It's been a minute. Since then, we've just had a bunch of build up and setup for things to come, but it seems like we're about to see those things coming quite soon. And I promise, guys, I am trying to get to the point to where I can add my 2 cents in on these chapters more and more as the chapters go by, but starting out it's a bit harder than I thought it was, but I do love doing this, and I do intend to get much better with each passing chapter that I upload. I have great role models in the community like NC Hammer 23 or Grand Line Review that I really do look up to and hope to be able to stand in the same circle in the same light as them one day, as far-fetched as that dream does seem. But I hope you enjoyed the video today, guys, and I know I'm more so just walking you through than actually reviewing these chapters, but I plan to fix that sooner or later, hopefully sooner. And until then, I am thinking about trying to upload different types of videos like what ifs or something else of the sort until I can get there and work my chops until they're as fine as I want them to be. But with all of that said, I do appreciate each and every one of you for taking time out of your day to watch this video to the end, and I really do hope that you all liked what you saw here today. And with all of that said, I've been Shit for Brains, and I'm checking out. Thanks.